Just 1 month into his presidency, Donald Trump has upended US policy on the Ukraine war. In a dramatic UN showdown, Trump voted against a General Assembly resolution condemning Moscow. Shortly after, the US secured approval in the Security Council for its own resolution calling for an immediate end to the war. Today, we break down the shifting dynamics between the US, Russia, and Europe. 93 countries backed the General Assembly resolution condemning Russia's full scale invasion of Ukraine, calling for de escalation and an unconditional withdrawal of Russian forces. 18 nations, including Russia, the US, Israel, Hungary, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Niger, voted against it. After failing to persuade Ukraine to withdraw its resolution and negotiating with European allies, the US presented its own three paragraph resolution. This resolution, which omits calling Russia the aggressor or acknowledging Ukraine's territorial integrity, implores a swift end to the conflict and urges lasting peace between Ukraine and Russia. Acting US Ambassador to the UN, Dorothy Shea, stated, and I quote, "The resolution puts us on the path to peace. It is a first step, but a crucial one of which we should all be proud. Now we must use it to build a peaceful future for Ukraine, Russia, and the international community." End quote. Security Council resolutions are legally binding, unlike those of the General Assembly, which carry only political weight. America's recent policy shift has made Russians rejoice, yet it would be mistaken to see the US as Russia's new ally. Under President Obama, attempts were made to reset US Russia relations, but efforts faltered as Russia undermined US interests in Syria and with its annexation of Crimea in 2014. Trump, however, presents a different approach. His mindset appears closer to Putin's idea that the world should be run by two or three major powers. For now, Putin is carefully playing Trump, potentially using this to negotiate a bilateral deal that could neutralize Ukraine, temporarily revive the Russian economy, and divide Europe. Furthermore, persistent US Russia animosity may hamper any attempt by Trump to delink Russia from China, leaving the US to face China alone as Europe becomes less inclined to assist. The policy shift may also fuel the rise of far right parties in Europe. Recently, US Vice President JD Vance urged European leaders at the Munich Security Conference to drop their resistance to extreme parties. He called on German politicians to lift the firewall against engaging with far right groups like the Alternative for Deutschland or AfD. Billionaire Elon Musk, aligned with Trump's Doge, congratulated AfD leader Alice Weidel on her party's strong showing in Germany. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Riyadh to discuss Ukraine's future, effectively keeping Ukraine and Europe sidelined from negotiations.
President Zelensky.
Trump has even labeled Ukrainian President Zelensky a dictator, setting the stage for a scenario where Ukraine's leadership might be replaced by a Russian-friendly figure under the guise of denazification. European leaders are deeply divided. French Ambassador Nicolas de Rivière warned, and I quote, "There will be no peace and security anywhere if aggressions are rewarded and if the law of the jungle wins." End quote. UK Ambassador Barbara Woodward emphasized that peace must be just and uphold the UN Charter to endure. Many fear that Trump's push for a quick end to the war might force Ukraine into a temporary ceasefire, giving Russia a chance to rebuild its military. Following a recent EU meeting, 7 European countries stressed that Ukraine and Europe must be part of any negotiations. On the defense front, Friedrich Merz, Germany's prospective chancellor, expressed doubts about US commitment to NATO. He fears that Trump may abandon NATO's mutual defense pledge, leaving Europe exposed. Since NATO's formation in 1949, the US has been the cornerstone of European security. However, while NATO members once pledged 2% of their GDP for defense, the Trump administration now demands 5%. In 2023, the US military spending was equivalent to 3.4% of its GDP, according to NPR. A report by the European think tank Bruegel estimates that Europe would need around 300,000 additional troops and an extra $262 billion to fully replace US defense support, concluding that the numbers are small enough for Europe to replace the US entirely. To sum it up, Trump's recent policy reversal at the UN, his strategic pivot in the Ukraine war, and the ensuing global reactions signal a seismic shift in the international security. As the US, Russia, and Europe navigate these turbulent waters, the stakes for global peace and defense have never been higher. Stay tuned as we continue to follow these high stakes developments.